This letter was handed to me by a private investigator for Louis Vuitton who had driven to the Outer Cape in the middle of February at 7 o'clock in the morning to hand it to me. And this is another Louis Vuitton bag that they don't want me cutting up, but I'm going to cut up anyway. Let's talk about how we got here, because it's kind of an interesting one. When I first started the YouTube channel, I had wandered upon an Alma bag for 30 bucks. It was worn, it was ripped, the zipper was basically torn out of it. And I figured, well, maybe we'll cut it up and make something out of it that might make a good video, because we were just starting the channel and I figured people would like to watch that. So I did just that. I cut it up, made a video, and everything went to plan. The video got a bunch of views. It was pretty much the first video that kind of kicked off the growth of the channel. And we sort of became known for cutting apart Louis Vuitton bags. And there are plenty of them on the Cape because there are a lot of older folks who have estate sales when they sell their houses to go into convalescent homes. And this one that I'm cutting up now was, I think, 50 bucks, and it's a ton of Louis Vuitton fabric. And from what I can tell, it's legit. So I'm not a professional, but as I later came to learn, doesn't really matter. None of it's illegal. So let's talk about how I got that letter and what I learned from it. I believe it was February of 2018, somewhere around there. And I was leaving my cottage. I lived in like a 500 square foot cottage on pretty much almost all the way out in the dunes of the Cape. And I was leaving my house. It was around 7 or 8 in the morning. And I looked over and a black Suburban was driving up in the yard. And this was unusual because the whole neighborhood, there were only a few people that lived there year round. Most of it was all tourists. And I looked and I figured it was someone turning around, waited for something to happen. And a woman got out. I think she had sunglasses on. And she walked through the yard to me. And she said, "Hi, I'm from Louis Vuitton. And I'm here about your counterfeiting operation." And I said, "My counterfeiting operation? What do you mean?" So she hands me the paper, the packet. And she goes, "They'd like you to sign this, and then I need to seize all of the materials." And I said, "All right, well, there's 2 issues with that. First, this is a 2-bedroom cottage that was just insulated 3 years ago. So I'm not running a counterfeiting operation out of it. And second, nothing's counterfeit. It was a authentic bag that I cut up, and I made it into wallets and sold the wallets. And they had my logo in them. And that was it. There's nothing counterfeit about it. You can call it upcycling, you can call it recycling, but I wasn't selling them as Louis Vuitton wallets. In fact, I made a video that got 1 million views showing that they were cut up bags, and that's what the sales came from. And she said, "Oh, wait, that's what's happening?" I said, "Yeah, that's what's happening." So she said, "Okay, well, I still need you to sign this." And I, of course, said, "Absolutely not." So she said, "All right, well, I'll leave it with you, and maybe you can call the number. That's our fraud department in New York, and explain to them what's happening." So I said, "Absolutely. You know, it's good to keep cordial and nice." She was just doing her job, and she left. I hope she didn't come from New York, but the car did have New York plates on it, so she definitely had a long drive home. So I get to work. We had a workshop a couple towns over at the time, and I set about calling and making contact with someone there. And it was funny because for all the work and for all the trouble they went to, they didn't put a working phone number in the packet. I had to actually call one of their New York City stores, and I think I Googled like their headquarters or something like that, called the store that was attached to it. They put me on hold, sent me upstairs, and ultimately I ended up talking to the head of their security or fraud division or whatever, and his name was Eric, which is also my name. Older gentleman, ex-military or CIA or something like that. He had all the acronyms, you know. They try to scare you, and it didn't really get to me because I knew they really couldn't do much. You know, what I was doing wasn't illegal, and what they were trying, I understood what they wanted me to do, but I don't like getting pushed around like that. So I talked to him, and he said what had happened was they had seen my video and saw that I was selling the wallets that I made out of it, and so they bought one. And it was one of, I think, 8 total that I sold. And when they got it, they determined that the Louis Vuitton fabric that I was using for the wallet was fake. Now, a good thing to do with Louis Vuitton bags or any real bags that you cut apart to make into other things is to save the handles, Louis Vuitton will have serial number on the inside on a tag usually. You can save that, save any defining numbers, marks, anything. So if they come to you, you can say, well, you're wrong. Here's the proof. And I had that. So I read him off everything and I said, I don't know how you decided that it was fake fabric, but it's real. And he goes, well, we decided it was fake fabric because it didn't have the rubber lining on the back. I said, yeah, I used a heat gun to peel it off. And he goes, wait, what? I said, it's not rocket scientist. It's just, I just used a heat gun and peeled the rubber backing off so it was thinner so I could use it as a wallet shell. And he goes, oh, I've never seen that before. And I was like, interesting. Quite the fraud department there. And I don't say all this to be mean. He truly was just doing his job, but I really don't like when people try to... I understand what Louis Vuitton is trying to do. They're trying to prevent people from using fabric and either cheapening their brand or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, once you sell a bag, you no longer own it. So you don't have any rights to tell people what they can and can't do with your used or vintage bags. And that's what they try to do. From what I've heard, they send people to Goodwills and thrift stores and they'll buy any Louis Vuitton there because they don't want the public thinking of them as a secondhand brand, and they have quotas on how much of the cheap stuff that they'll sell. So this famous pattern, I think it was like 70% of their sales 10 years ago, and now it's only 30% because they want to be seen as more of a runway brand. It's typical stuff. All the big brands do it, but I don't like when they start to send private investigators to, at the time, 2-person leather shop, personal addresses, just not what I'm into. And as an aside, I'm switching out the native buckle guy die holders here for, I forget which one it is, but it holds weaver dies because I wanted to set some Sagwa snaps. And it worked really well. So I kept talking to this Eric gentleman, and he told me that they had used a fake Instagram account that I went and found it, and it was fully populated, like hundreds of pictures. It was a fake couple. I don't know where they were getting the pictures up from, but that account bought a wallet from me, and that's how they got the wallet. Now, I came to learn from him, I didn't even look this up, that what they would have done is they would have just told me to stop. They didn't want me using, they didn't want me cutting apart their bags on video, which they obviously have no control over. They didn't want me selling pieces with the fabric, which again, totally legal. The only thing, as you can see here, I did ruin one of the wallets, but I cut out a piece and made another one. But as you can see, I put my logo on it. I'm not trying to fool anyone and say that this is a Louis Vuitton piece. It uses Louis Vuitton fabric, but it's not a Louis Vuitton piece. And he later took a look at the wallet that I sent him and said that it was indeed authentic fabric from what he could tell. So that was pretty much it. It was a very dramatic entrance to get me that letter, and then nothing happened. I continue to sell a few Louis Vuitton pieces when I come across a vintage piece that I can't repair, and I'll cut it apart and make different things out of it. Make videos with it. It's just kind of fun. And I just like using the fabric because it is historical, hand sewing like this, painting the edges, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you're curious, it's totally legal to buy any sort of Louis Vuitton. They told me that I would have to buy something that I had a receipt from a store, and if I did that, they would ban me from the store because they didn't want resellers or people that were going to cut up their products. So they basically said that there's no way that they would approve of doing this, which is understandable, but doesn't make it illegal. It's just their opinion. And so what they'll do is they'll send someone to intimidate you, and if you're not versed in it, you'll get all afraid. But what you need to know is that even though they're a big company, you still do have rights as a creator to recontextualize things. And being a huge historical brand, of course, it would make sense to want to recontextualize some of their fabric if you come across it and you want to use it in your work. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially I don't think you should cut up a brand new bag. It doesn't really make much sense to me. But if you find something that's broken and you don't want to fix it, why not make something new out of it? I think that's beautiful practice. So here I have the Giardini edge paint, I haven't even talked about what we're making in this video, but we're painting the edges here. This is the ochre color, just straight from the bottle. And I figured this will be a little bit more low key than the bright red that I usually do, because I'm going to carry this, and I like also the yellow will look more bright as that Butero, the natural Butero, gets darker with age. So that'll be kind of cool. And here we go. So this is a sort of similar to the Tongue wallet, I believe that's the name of the wallet, by one of my favorite Japanese brands, Wild Swans. A friend made this pattern, and this is my first time trying it. I simplified it a little bit for my needs, but I'm really happy with it. Some Sigma glove snaps, an antique brass, the Louis Vuitton fabric. Key to making it very Louis Vuitton is to center the logos and make sure you never cut off the LV part of the pattern. But with these nice painted edges and my logo on the back, I don't think anyone's going to confuse it for a factory piece. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.